Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to episode 118 of Direwolf20's... What did I do? Oh yeah, Let's Play series, that's right. So I'm sitting here grabbing my book and I finally made a link book that's going to lead to my little underwater base, we'll call that. Thank you. It's just a link book that leads to the overworld at the coordinates where I set up my nifty underwater base from last episode. Hello there, everybody. Ah, it's flooding. Why is it flooding? Stop flooding. Behave. Did we run out of power? Oh, there we go. Nope. Okay, cool. I'm supposing we're good. Maybe just because chunks unloaded and then reloaded and that kind of fun stuff happened. So, I've obviously got some things to do this episode. I have a couple things I'd like to work on. One of them being, I'd like to turn this on and off by automatic. Yeah, that would be cool. So, I have a couple ideas. First off, let's see. I think I want some red alloy wire. And for now, probably a lever. That'll be good. And I want an emergency override lever. So that's one thing that we're going to focus on. Let's jump into bat mode, because that'll make this a little bit easier. And why don't I also grab a shovel of some sort if I have one. Dun dun dun, that'll do. So where am I in relation to all my stuff? There I am. Oh, sounds like another wither. I guess that's the one downside to having a wither-powered base, is that you hear the wither sound every now and then. Not the end of the world, but... Alright, so I definitely want this guy to be connected here, and we probably want this thing to be enabled low. So I just want to see if with my lever this works, or if I need to do anything further. Ah, there we go, see? So that cuts the power to that, which cuts the power generation to this thing, so you can see he's no longer deriving. This guy's going to balance, but it's not going to turn off the force field because our capacitor has, one of these guys is a capacitor, has a bunch of energy stored in it. So until that energy runs out, so we don't want to just have it cut the power to the tesseract, though I do want it to cut the power to the tesseract because I don't want it to power, this thing requires a lot of power, the quantum field ring. Yeah, I definitely don't want it to power that. So let's run over to here. So if I make this lever active, nope, definitely gonna have to put this up here like that, kind of. Okay, that's different. Interesting. Let's try and grab some regular redstone. Alright guys, attempt number 2. Regular old piece of redstone. And go. Alright, let's try this then. Yeah, nothing. Alright, let me figure this out. There we go. Okay. So what I'm going to need is a NOT gate here, probably, to keep this toggled on and everything else off. That should work. Or my other option, of course, is to set this guy to high equals on. Yeah, that should work. If I set this guy to high equals on, then I think we'll be in good shape. So that'll do. Okay, cool. So we just had to turn this off, like it was on, it was being forced on by that setting. So I just had to turn it off, and then now redstone controls it. All right, easy enough. So now that we've got this thing set up, let's build something that will allow us to detect when I'm nearby. And for that, we're going to want the universal sensor. So the universal sensor requires a bunch of stuff that I don't have apparently. I need a printed circuit board, I need some ender plant seeds, and I need some chopper plant seeds. Wow, I don't really think I have much of either of those, do I? Jump back into human form and see what I've got by way of seeds. So, ender plant seeds, I've got 1. Okay, that's cool. And then chopper plant seeds, I have some of those. So I'll get half a stack. And let's make sure this guy is set to pull out plastics, and then we'll go take care of what we need to take care of. So into here you go. Plastics is what's allowed out, so hopefully that'll behave itself. And I think what I'm going to have to do is get some bone meal and some end stone. I expect to have a little bit more than that. And we grow it like this. 1, 2, something like that. Yeah, it's about 2. We'll get it to the grown state where it's going to give you extra seeds. So let me just get a few extra of these. I'll be back in a minute. So I'm pretty sure that the ender plant plastic stuff is really not used for much else but the universal sensor. So that's probably a big part of the reason why I didn't have much of them. Also, let's see, plastic. Did I get my chopper plant seeds? I did, which means good job, Direwolf. That thing will do its thing. Wow, that wither's really having a good time over there, isn't he? And then I need a circuit board. So let me get one of those built real quick. Oh good, I happen to have all the stuff I need for them. Nice. Alright, so I put this away in here and then try for a universal sensor. Now we're talking. Awesome. The other thing I'm going to want is a real quick compressor. And that's good. And then I'll probably also want a pneumatic craft pipe. I think it's actually tube. We'll probably want a regular pressure tube. And we'll also want the pressure gauge tube. Yeah. Okay. And probably a little bit of redstone. Because unfortunately we do need a little bit of power. The other thing I'm going to want while I'm here is an entity tracker. So actually, let me look up universal sensor again, and we'll see that there's the thing I want as an entity tracker. Not too hard to make, luckily. I think that was sugar, right? Entity tracker. Sweet. And I'm also going to want some range upgrades. So for that, we're going to want some bows. I think to get started, I'm going to want like 7 of these. So let's get some sticks and some string, and I'll be back in a minute. Alright guys, so what I've got set up next is the following. Hey, don't do that. Here, here, and here. That's a force field block, by the way. Let's say that we're going to have... That's weird. Alright, so what I'm thinking then is universal sensor here. I do want to make sure that I can disable this thing when I'm ready for it to not run anymore. So I'm thinking for that we'll want an air compressor with, let's say, one of these guys in between it. And this, by the way, is the one that emits a redstone signal. So I could probably have some coal in here. Let me snag another piece of that, by the way. I wonder, out of curiosity. No, I didn't think so. Alright, let's turn this off for a second then. There we go. Turn it back on. There we go. How many blocks is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That might be a little too much. Might want it to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That should be good. So by the time the power gets here, it'll be a signal strength of 8, which means it's a power level of 4, which should be cool. One last thing I want to set up is actually going to come probably by way of perfect, just what I was looking for. Here. I want to output coal to this thing. And trust me, I have a reason for all this. It's going to work out in the end. It'll be cool. You'll see. Alright, so for this to work out, probably want to just do export bus. There we go. And would you mind terribly exporting coal for me? Thank you, good sir. Cool. So this thing will keep this running. Now, the Pneumaticraft sensor station is a pretty cool device. Why don't I turn this off? And we'll see that we're no longer generating the force field, right? So if I were to open this guy up, the sensor station, and put an entity tracker in there, and I tell it to track Direwolf 20, ta-da! The force field's on, but then when I walk away, force field's off. When I get close again, force field's on. Neat, right? So as long as I'm near to the universal sensor, and it's not a huge range, but it's close, it's, you know, good enough. There we go, it's running. Now I'm going to bump this range up with some range upgrades. So let's throw 5 in there. And when I do that, we should see these blue lines start to fill in the area. See these blue lines? This is indicating to you the range of the sensor station with the current upgrades that are in it. So if I step outside of that range, notice that the water fills in again and the force field's off. Okay, but if I go back inside the range, anywhere inside that square area, haha, the force field's back on. Neat, right? I might need to move this thing a little bit though, because I did want to have a connector. I just wanted to see how that would work out. I want to have like an override switch, so I'll probably have that somewhere in the room. That's pretty neat, right? So that's cool. I like it. Now why aren't you on? Oh, you're off. Why are you off? Oh, right, because I flipped the lever off. We ran out of power. That doesn't hurt. All right, so let's connect this thing all up. So I'm probably going to want to move this guy around a little bit. So let me rewire him a bit, and then we'll be back in a minute. All right, guys, so here's what I'm thinking, right? We'll hook this thing back in. We'll do the player sensor with a range of 5. And if you want, by the way, if you don't want it to just be a specific person, you can do @player, and that should also detect any players nearby. And that should then be kicking this thing on. So let's flip this off. And all I need to do now is hook up the pressure tube. There we go. So once this thing builds back up to a decent pressure again, and oh, I better make sure that we don't ever have this thing drain out. That probably shouldn't be a problem if I just put a block here. That's pretty good. Yes. There we go. And that'll stop everything when it's done. Cool. So any moment now, we should see this thing activate the redstone signal once he has enough power to start running. It uses a very small amount of pressure, by the way, so this is like extremely low power that it's going to use. So anytime I'm nearby, we should get a redstone signal in the alloy wire stuff, and then we should have this thing flipped on. Let's see if I'm correct about that. I need to get over there. So I bet this is actually on right now, but my power is probably dead. I should fix that. I'm going to set this guy to ignore redstone for a minute so that we can continue to test this without there being any issues. There we go. Get this thing back. Cool. All right, back in a minute. So one thing that I might need to tweak about this setup, it does emit a redstone strength for the number of matching players nearby. So when I have it with Direwolf 20, it emits a redstone strength as 1, and even if I did at player, this should also work. Still redstone strength of 1. It would give out a redstone strength of 2 if 2 players are nearby. So if I want this to go a little further, I might need to throw a repeater on there. There we go. That's probably better. So then, and if I'm not nearby, it should not activate. Cool. Huh, squid found his way in here. That's funny. Alright, and then nearby, and then I back out of range, and I'm not nearby, and I get back into range, and it does flip back on. Sweet. It of course takes a second for it to completely clear out all the water, but I think that's pretty good. Let's throw another couple of range upgrades in there. So let's see, where's the range on that thing now? That's pretty darn close. Because I had to move it back here, obviously I need a few more range upgrades. Let's throw all 10 in. That should be sufficient. That'll basically be this room, plus a little bit beyond this room. So whenever I leave, everything goes off. I like it. Cool. So we'll make sure that's in there, and then the last component I'll probably want is my manual shutoff switch. So let's get that in place. How do I want to do that? So I'm going to make an AND gate here, and let's make sure I've got my screwdriver on hand. I always forget if I put my screwdriver in here or not. Yeah, I did. Cool. Good, Direwolf. Let's jump down here. There we go. And we're going to want an AND gate here. There we go. And I want to screwdriver it so that that guy doesn't matter. So now all I need is a redstone signal into here. And we should be in good shape. Okay. So let's see if that's correct with a test of the lever. So both signals... Oh boy, something blew up. Better fix this. Alright, so I just tossed a couple speed upgrades in here to make this run a little bit faster, but there. Oh, I know what I forgot to do. Duh. Only generate on low redstone signal. Much better now. Alright, so that was a little bit of a derp on my part. Alright, so we were testing... I need a new AND gate, don't I? Alright, new AND gate there. So remember, we're shutting off that right one, and then boom. So when both this signal and this signal come in, so if this guy's not here, or if a player's not here, for example, notice that it's no longer running. It has to be both a player and this guy. So not running, running. So I need an emergency kill switch. So where am I going to put that? I don't want to have it under there. I actually want to have it in this room somewhere. And I'm thinking it'll be near my bookshelf over here. So... because I kind of already have this thing ready wired up there. Actually, I should probably leave this on for the time being so that we can keep this running, and then I'll just set up a new one. But I might want it to be that... See, that's a force field. Right, so I'm thinking if I had the switch right here, then let's do this. Let's turn this off. We'll have a couple real blocks here. And these blocks will run straight down like this. One of the benefits of red alloy wire is it doesn't get knocked off by water. Cool, right? There we go. So that should do that, and then we should be able to get a lever here. Now the only downside being, of course, that levers and water are not friends, but I've got a solution. First, let's get ourselves a lever. Ah. Oh wow, I have a stick in my inventory. Sweet. And the other thing I'm going to need is some kind of cover strip, like a stone cover strip. So what might not be well known, right? So if you place the lever there, it's going to get knocked off because it's underwater, right? Regular old Minecraft Physics 101. Yeah, I know vanilla a little bit. If you put a strip there, though, cover strips are not knocked off by water. And micro parts overwrite the default lever and redstone and all those other things to make them micro parts. So a lever can exist in the same block as a cover strip. Boom. Check that out. And then flip the lever, and the signal's on, and then the force field's on. How cool is that? So this lever no longer necessary. We can close this thing off. So now player has to be nearby and lever has to be on. If lever is off, force field is off. And the water won't wash away the lever because the micro part shares the block with it. Cool, right? And if we really wanted to, I could get a saw and a strip and saw this strip into stone nooks and remove the strip and make it a stone nook. So it's really hard to see. So that stone nook will do the same thing. It'll prevent water from flowing over that block. Cool trick, right? Nice. Alright, back in a minute. Alright guys, so now that we've got this nifty underwater base, oh, you know what? There's one more thing I want to do is chunk load it. See, I should have a chunk loader handy. Wouldn't be a bad idea to keep it chunk loaded just so we can make sure that, you know, things behave. So I showed up in the base, and that means it should activate the force field. Cool. Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to do too. I almost forgot. I'll put my chunk loader right here. And that should be cool, right? Yeah, it should be plenty. Let's see if I can remember this guy, silence module. Cool. All I need is 4 note blocks. It sounded easy until I realized I had no wood. 256. I knew I was forgetting something that I wanted to do here. Silence module. Ah, much better. Thought you guys might appreciate that a little bit, right? A lot better. Yeah, that noise is cool, but you probably don't want it to always exist in some place you might be calling home soon. Alright, so now that we can go back, there's one more thing I want to do before we wrap up this episode, and that is to get to a place that's really, really high up in the air. I'm going to need to get a little bit more feathers and a few more tarma root. This stuff you can find on the ground, by the way. I happen to have found a bit. Let's go up to our essence refiner, and I believe it goes a little something like this. This guy starts spinning. I know I did it right. Yeah, tarma root, feathers. There it goes. Cool. While that spins and produces my air essence, I need some gold inlay, because I want to spawn another boss from Ars Magica. Oh good, I happen to have some. Beautiful. However, this needs to be done at Y level 150. So let's get an angel block. And get up to Y level 150. Or above. I think above sounds good, right? Let's get some bricks. I probably should have brought in a few up here. And let's get our wand. Thank you. The angel block is the best thing for building way up in the air. Now, I'm going to recommend to you guys, if you don't have a form of flight, that you should probably build some kind of walled-in room or something. But I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. What I'm going to do is just build out this inlay circle. Luckily, this is a really easy guardian to summon. And let's see how that air essence is doing, because all you really need is the air essence. The downside is that that tarma root is not terribly easy to come by. It's not the worst thing in the world, but you know what? It's not super common either. Good news is, though, that you can get it from killing the boss we're about to kill. I don't think it's a high chance of dropping. Let's turn on our magnet. just so we can be sure to catch anything that he might drop. It's a simple matter of the gold inlay circle, and drop this guy in, and ta-da! Guardian a hoe. He will spin you up in the air. He will also... Haha, nice, he fell. Where'd he go? Where'd you go, Guardian? He will also knock armor off, so be ready for that possibility. Not sure where he went. Does he despawn if he goes below Y level 150? Oh, he might. That would be very sneaky and smart. Alright, I gotta build a room to trap him in. Alright, back in a minute. Alright, let's try that again. And nice. There we go. He's not too bad to fight. He really isn't, especially when you have this awesome weapon that ignores armor. Take that, Error Guardian. Cool. And it looks like he made some air essence for me. Cool. And I'm getting knocked around by his whirlwind. And you can see it also knocked my pants off. Huh. So watch out for the pants shenanigans. Might not be a bad idea to have your regen spell handy. But the good news is that, you know, you get some good stuff from him. Not only do you get more air essence if you're lucky, and I'm going to try and kill him with my looting sword when his health gets low. There we go. Ouch, ouch. But you can see I'm actually, like, struggling a little bit here. Especially with all my crazy stuff. The amount of struggling that I'm doing is a little bit more than you might expect. Cool. So let's go downstairs via Void Dude. Because there's a particular spell I want to give a try to making. This is really going to help me in the fight against the Enderman. You ready? Let's get a book ready to write. And I'm going to make a basic version of this, and we'll get a more fun one a little bit later. I want to do projectile, and then I want to teach myself a new utility ability called Create Water. Yep, it's going to do exactly what it sounds like. Let's go ahead and drop this on the platform here and see what's involved in creating water. Blank Rune, Ventium Dust, Arrow, and Snowball. Let me put away some junk here, as well as get rid of some of the stuff I don't need, and we'll be back in just a minute. So it actually looks like there's a few more items here that we're not familiar with having, so I'm making sure to add them to the interface here. Let's see, so that is Blank Rune, Ventium Dust, Arrow, Snowball, Blue Rune, Water Bucket, and Spell Parchment. Alright, so Blue Rune, I don't know that I've had Water Bucket in here before, but I should have Spell Parchment, and I should be able to auto-craft a Water Bucket, so I'll add that here. Cool. Let's get this process going. So we'll want a Blank Rune to kick things off. Dun 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 dun. We're making Ventium Dust, an Arrow, a Snowball, a Blue Rune, a Water Bucket, and Spell Parchment. Nice. I can turn off my Mysterious Magnet for the time being, and we'll call this Water. Cool. What do we want it to look like? A small little explosion of water. That looks good, right? So check this out. You ready? I'm going to head to a location where I won't mind if I create a whole little bit of mess of water. Could be the end, but I think there's enough water in the end right now, don't you guys? Let's go find a spot out in the overworld. I'm going to sleep through the night real quick. And we're going to try out a new spell, and if it works as well as I think it will, we're going to go ahead and add it to our spell book. Alright guys, just not too far from my base right at the moment, but let's go ahead and try out this new spell. So let's imagine there's an Enderman attack, and they're all running around me. Boom. Nice. Check that out. Now I don't think a higher level version of that spell is going to do much, but look at that. And that really doesn't actually cost too much mana. That's actually really low on mana cost. And it'll quickly flood whatever area I want. Now clearly, I'm going to have to figure out a way to clean this up, maybe after the fact, because I don't want to do this in my base and then just have water all over the place. That'll be a hassle to fix. But I think that's pretty cool. Wherever the projectile hits equals water. I like it. Nice. Alright, so that's going to be a good weapon in the attack against the Enderman. And it's really not a lot of mana, which means I can shoot it a lot. Now, there is a spell called Drought, and I was kind of testing this a little bit in single player. It works, but it's not great in a projectile form. And I was also trying to get this in an area of effect form, and unfortunately, the area of effect kind of affects the block that it hits instead of the block on top of where it hits. So I don't know how good that's going to be for us. Also, I want to go check out my chest over here because... Oh yeah, look at that. Wow. We have 2.5 almost stacks of Certus Quartz ore. I think we could probably turn these things off for the time being. I'll, by the way, definitely be dumping this into an ender chest at some point. I just wanted to kind of keep an eye on it so we can see what kind of stuff we get. Also, what ratios of stuff we get. So, obviously, because of the lasers, we have a ton of Certus Quartz ore and Malachite ore. Like I said, we probably would. Also, the more common a material is, the more likely you are to get it, which is why we have lots of iron and coal. And a bit of redstone, too. Also, not a bad chunk of diamonds. Cool. A little bit of glowstone going on, nether quartz ore. Nice. Alright guys, so unfortunately it is now wrapping up point for the episode, but I like the little base we made. So first off, as soon as we teleport over here, boom, all the water clears out. But the water and the power system will completely be shut off whenever, a player is not in the area. Or whenever I flip the lever. You'll see that the Tesseract has been disabled. It's not currently running. And it's not sending power, which means that this quantum field ring should quickly shut itself off because it's not getting any power. So right now, I do have power in the ME terminal here, but in about 30 seconds or so, its internal buffer will probably dump out. I just think Whale, it doesn't... There it goes. It just killed. So now, nope, no more power. But of course, flip the lever back. Yoink. And force field's back on, ME crafting terminal is available, quantum field ring is online, boom, everything works. Player leaves area, and force field goes down again. Not bad. So the Enderman can't get to my base to meddle with it, and the Enderman can't get there at all if I decide to flip the lever and want to hang out and hide underwater. Also, we've got a nice little water spell that'll just create a block of water wherever I'm shooting it. Not bad. So I'm looking forward to having a little bit of fun. Oh boy. I didn't even see the sign. Get out of here, sign. Go away. Thank you. So, for now, Direwolf20 signing off. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We'll be back next time to, probably just do a little bit of preparation. Maybe check on the end, see how things are doing. And a few other nifty builds I'd like to get to. We are getting, just so you guys know, a little bit close to the season ending, as you've probably guessed. But don't worry, we've got good things planned for after when we're ready to wrap up this season. Alright guys, for now, Direwolf20 signing off. Take it easy.